I've got one, maybe two questions to ask, and I asked this question earlier to Brian, so I'll ask him again. And I think Ken gave a little bit of an answer to the question in his speech during lunch. But don't take this wrong, but I don't have a political science degree, so I'm more blunt in my questions. I was really surprised to see how much involvement the panel had in the Cache Valley development with Bragg and the other things that was shown this morning. And so as a homeowner, taxpayer, why would I want to pay you guys $250,000 or more and end up with the mess that they have in Cache Valley?
Okay. Again, great question. You want to make a difference. This isn't, first thing in your question was the amount it costs. It varies depending on the scope, and so you have to talk through scope. And we did one in Morgan County for 120, one in Washington County was 500, but it had housing consultants from Florida and transportation consultants, planning consultants from Colorado, year-and-a-half process, et cetera. So it really depends on the process, but it wasn't taxpayer funded in whole. As I said, part of it was from cities, part from counties, and so there was some public funding, but a lot of it's private. So that just addresses that one issue. If we were to do something here, I would think that there's probably not a lot of public money available to do something. This would have to be something that would involve a lot of fundraising. And there are a lot of interests in this area, and so I don't question that we could raise the money to make it happen. But the second part of that is results. And the processes we've been talking about in terms of planning have just taken place in the last year or two. So what you see in Cache is not a result of what's happened in the visioning that just ended a month ago that we did and some of the other things that have been going on. I think that I'm seeing, in my experience, that all over, not just the states in the West, but all over the country, people are starting to think, we do better when we think ahead. This isn't about imposing some vision on people. It's not about government control, but it's about we as citizens getting together, getting better information, and thinking about the long-term consequences of our actions. So a lot of this is fairly new, and it's a process that's just kind of coming on board, and so I think the results will be better in the future, is all I'm saying.
Okay. Randall and I had a little conversation earlier, and part of the problem is with planning is this is nothing new. This isn't rocket science. These are things that we've been doing for years. A lot of the problems that we spoke about that were identified in Cache Valley are things that Cache Valley has been talking about for 50, 60, 70 years. They've talked about transportation issues, they've talked about conflicting land uses, and they've even written plans 50 years ago that addressed these. This was before Kent, but because of I wasn't there. I don't personally understand the political pressures, the social pressures that were going on at the time, even economic and other things all play into this. But for whatever reason, the local government officials that were enforcing policies and rules changed their direction, and in many cases just stopped pushing in any particular direction at all. And what is inherently necessary in this planning is maintaining the process. Like Ken mentioned at lunch, you have to go back and revisit this every few years and say, are we still doing the right thing? And if we're not, you know, what can we do to change? But what happened in Logan City and in Cache Valley was they kind of lost the whole understanding of why do the process at all. And it came in kind of fits and spurts. You know, for 10 years they were kind of on the ball and keeping track of things, and then for 10 years they'd fall off the wagon and just kind of let things go. However, more of a chaotic sort of environment. And then for 10 years they'd get back on and kind of tighten the reins in a little bit again, and then for 10 more years they'd just let loose. And honestly, I don't know what the answer to that is, other than making sure that with these processes you have as broad a citizen base involved as you can, so that you can gain as much public support, and even if they don't support it, even if they at least understand why you're doing it and understand what the different elements involved are, so that when people are dissatisfied with a development pattern, or they're dissatisfied with a policy direction, and they run for office and they kick the bums out and they change things the way they want it to go, they understand why it was done the way it was in the past, and they understand what they need to do to push their new direction. And it's just, you know, and this is kind of the way it goes with any sort of public policy. You've got to educate the up and coming generation of leadership into why it's important to participate. And that goes with land use planning, it goes with utilities management, it goes with everything that local governments provide for their citizens. Is there has to be an outreach, and there has to be an education to the general public of why these processes are important. Once they understand that, then they can begin to use those processes to get where they want to go. It may be, and it, you know, it may be an about face in completely different direction from what was going on 10 years ago. But that's kind of the way our system of government works, and the way our free market society works. You know, we have to be flexible to respond to different needs and different situations, but we have to understand the processes that are in place, and we have to understand why they work the way they do, and then hopefully the people that are coming up through the system, through the process of public involvement, they can understand why the decisions are being made, and even if they disagree with them, they can use the processes that are in place to move the community in the direction that the people want to go. That's my 2 cents. So, anybody else want to brave the?
Am I safe? Okay. No, a comment, and this is any member of the panel that wants to comment can comment, but I just wanted to say, and this gentleman's comments got me to thinking a little bit about this valley and its uniqueness. Is shortly after I became mayor of Montpelier, I was given a book to read called Paradise Paved. And I read that book, and it made all the difference in the world, because Jackson Hole, Wyoming used to be like us. Park City, Utah used to be like us. And because they weren't ahead of the game, like we have an opportunity of being ahead of the game, we could end up being and having a lot of their problems unless we're ahead of the game. And today's whole discussion has been totally revealing, and in my view, just makes me feel good that we can make a difference here for future generations. And I guess the big thing is in your experience of this grassroots up thing, how did you get people involved? How do you get them to come to meetings?